by this trend every single time, right? The balance that we talk about between greed, as to where if you were to buy in this moment, like we just looked at on, I think it was Loom, we talked about 15-minute charts, and as that's going up, right, this now should validate that conversation, because this is the balance between best buying opportunity versus the longer this move is going on, the harder the more greed is starting to get into people's mind, and the more price is going to be up against this trend here, where it's buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell. But then this just become the effect of time as a tool on the horizontal axis? Don't we just need time, because this will compress the move in both manners? Don't we just need time to get to a point where time can either go this way or time can either go this way, right? This is the effect of time, and time as a tool, and the compression factor that timing creates against the move. So now when you look at this and understand how a distribution cycle occurred and how an accumulation cycle can occur and the effects of time, you simply have that same 15-minute candle we looked at, where this is the greediest point to enter, but therefore every 15-minute candle after, or in our case daily candle after, becomes later and later and later entry, which ends up getting to this point where if this is maximum entry, where we have this thing we talked about yesterday, where time and a level can work together to achieve one result of breaking this level, right, over this space, this becomes a point where if greed is here, right, the reward is here, as to where greed is here, the reward is here. But this is why these kind of apexes in these moves happen, where they go into this wedge, just kind of completing the cycle of accumulation and distribution, and why these wedges happen like this, right? Why these wedges happen in this context. And you can see the greed here, and why it makes sense as to why these wedges now have these, again, these apexes where they come and test these levels, and then they just, zoom right over top of it, and, go up 50% from this moment here. And you guys look back and say, oh, if only I bought that 2 months ago, not only could I have made 98%, I could have made 100 or 274%. So you see why now the greed is, sometimes there's 100% moves where you look back and it's like, wow, BQX moved from 3,000 to 9,000 sats, but there was this same cycle, right? So breaking this distribution channel here is happening right here too. This is that same wedge that we are putting ourselves in right here, as we are looking at right here, right? Therefore, this is starting the same little event that occurred down here. Let's take all that off for a second. This little event here of creating this wedge against this its own local uptrend like that is the same thing that's starting here, where this is the wedge against the downtrend that's trying to end. Oops, I misdrew that. This is that same wedge against the downtrend that's trying to end, right? You're just seeing it mirrored, right? Like it's the same thing. It's literally the exact same thing. This one thing here becomes such a pinnacle moment for most people, as to seeing now being able to, again, conceptually, this stuff is not hard. This is very conceptually easy to execute. The understanding of why this exists is not some, well, this, like, it's not this big paper trail. Like, this is very simple things, but understanding it is different. Now, we go back to that conversation we had about Matic, and where I said it has to find some type of base to support the future of its move. You can see the same thing happening on accumulation. Like now we think about creating a base on accumulation. Didn't we just do this on Matic, right? Like, it's these rules, they are conceptually, they are quite accurate to the point where it's like 99.9%. And you can start to see why now there's a science behind this thing, going back to our earlier conversation, then, going back to Matic as how this creates a base. And now you can see that base in an accumulation cycle as to what we were looking to create on Matic is the same thing we're creating on Wabi right now, right? Where we are trying to end that backside of the trend on Matic to create some kind of base to start this here, right? Like this is the same thing that just happened here, right? Like, it's just finding a different type of base. Like, there's a different type of base that created this. This is not the same base that created this base back here on Matic, right? But this, now you can see where exactly Wabi going in the future. Like, if it breaks this here, which is losing of this trend, technically it has stopped laddering up. So now the move has completely changed. But in this moment, in this moment, creating this base off of this base, and you can see this creates this base to here, and you pull this back, which creates that base to there, and then you pull this back to here, which creates this base to here, losing that level. And we talked about this yesterday about how this is very common, where you will lose trend because this becomes now a test of greed against this level here. There could be something inside of this one. What are we on the daily? Yeah, okay, that's okay. I'm going to go with this one, but I can expect it maybe to see somewhere inside of this blue candle. Now you can see that understanding of that trend equals base, therefore best buying opportunity against greed. But sometimes when greed happens to the furthest extent, you have these insane moves up. And we talked about how Bitcoin lost trend and then came up and shot up above, because this becomes a balance of a move has entered accumulation, it has lost trend, therefore giving it larger capital injection opportunities off of these bases, right? I would actually, honestly, before this goes through, I would be buying this level. I was going to say I'd buy the top of this the top of this candle here, but that's not what I would do. I'd actually buy this level right here, because fractally there's information there that I can see. And I would have been too greedy, would have lost trend, and I would have never got entry on this. Right? So that's that balance between greed. And I probably would have bought this when I probably would have said here in this moment, I'm looking to buy this, but then this gets bought instead. So this would have been a spot where I was too greedy and lost the move. So that's kind of that idea of balance between greed is a very important thing to understand, because you can be greedy, but if you're too greedy, it's to the point where you could miss something very large, right? So always the balance you have to strike in trades, right? And then you've created this base in this move, right? At this moment, you have created this downtrend trying to end accumulation cycle against this. So we go back to this and talk about, right, where you can see failure. Technically, it cannot touch the valley. If it touches the valley, it's invalidated its uptrend. So it can do everything but touch this valley. It can even go 3 sats higher. I don't care. It can do anything but touch this valley. If it touches this valley, the move is over, because it's no longer trending up because it's lost its ladder, right? Instead, it creates a new base of the move, therefore breaking its cycle of distribution there, right? Pulls out again to create this base here, right? But again, these become the buying opportunities, right? Like this becomes the buying opportunity to see if failure is going to happen, and it doesn't break the move. It fails against it, just like it will do right here, right? You've created, oh, come on, TradingView. You've created this base here, right? Now in the future, this is going to act as support, and you've created this trend here, because in this moment, this trend would have moved out to here, right? So the same thing is happening on both sides. It's one with itself, which is now creating this trend here, right? It's the same trend moving out. Therefore, now you can start to see the effect of time, and then should actually be exact. And where we are left with Wabi, right? And how these uptrends start, and the base that's developed. And if this continues to fail against this distribution trend, it will continuously it will continuously bring this lower until a point where you get to these weekly timeframes, and you can see like, okay, Wabi can actually technically come all the way down here on a weekly time frame before it can go up to this, right? But not invalidating the larger time frame ladders is the key thing here, and trying to break off of these distribution patterns, because you can see even right now, Wabi is still not able to break over this cycle of its distribution, which is just a microcycle with an accumulation. That's that balance between greed and best quote unquote best buying opportunities versus greed, as to where greed can sometimes be a delimiting factor, where it takes you out of the trade, where you don't even ever get to enter the trade. Like if you were to look at this valley back here and say, well, I want to enter on this valley, you never actually touched that valley, because even though you broke trend, right? You broke trend, this was the valley that it caught, which actually just frays out trend even more, right? So it's the balance between picking the right level, respecting trend, because sometimes trend will get respected. When trend doesn't get respected, something has to offset that event. Just the same thing we look at with distribution, where trend will be offset by a level, right? Like, so for example, there's a level here that offsets it. There's a level here that offsets it. Trying to gain trend, right? Like you're trying to gain trend by offsetting a level. It's the same thing on accumulation. You're just trying to offset different types of levels. You're trying to offset values from the past, right? And then flipping the chart over again, it's just the same thing. All it's trying to do is use this uptrend to try to eventually break this downtrend. Like the goal here is to break this downtrend. If it can't break this downtrend, it will continue to fail against it. But these other trends that are being created, that's what they're attempting to do. These other trends that are being created here and here, their goal is to break this. Just like the goal on this side was to enter accumulation on that side, the goal on this side is the same thing, right? But there comes a point in time where you will just continuously fail against this trend until distribution can end. You could just sit here and do what you did on this side here for weeks on end, weeks on end, until you find some base, right? Or in this case, an all-time high, right? Or you just find some level of support in the past that will finally end up catching you, right? It will finally end up catching you until you can get to this moment where you break trend and start moving up back into accumulation, right? And you start trying to break this cycle now, where if you can hold this level and ladder up, you can now attack this valley once again, right here, right? For a second time, creating this, which then you need to ladder off of this, right? To create this famous moment that we love so much in our charts, where it's the move towards that wedge, right? It's right. The exact same thing. This is trying to break distribution. Just back out of this. We don't need all that. It's very messy. All is trying to happen here. That's frozen. Yeah, at least it saved that. That's good. Usually it doesn't save anything. All that is trying to happen is you are just trying to take this away, fine, take this away, fine. All you are trying to do is use this level here, and we're just going to delete this for a second. We don't need that. All you're trying to do is use that level of support to give you your falling knife, which is now going to try to ladder. As you can see, this trend, it is trying to create an uptrend against this valley by breaking this trend, right? Just like we have to break this valley to attack this downtrend, we have to break this downtrend to attack this valley. I said it the wrong way. We have to break this downtrend to attack this valley, which will then give us our trend like that, which is the next one we need to break, right? It's one and the same. And all that we're seeing right now on this side of the chart is just distribution. We're just seeing distribution falling against trend until it will get to these points where support can no longer hold it, and it will fall to the next level back here, right? And it will try to attempt to break that. And in that moment, it will try to back attack this valley, right? So fine, delete that support. We're already past that. Oh, no, we don't want to do that. Delete that. We're already past there. We found support here. We need to back attack this valley. And then we have to ladder up off of that to attack that valley and ladder here, right? So in this moment, you could just be creating on Wabi here. All we could be doing is falling against trend, right? This is just distribution until it has a reason to stop distribution, right? It's just constant distribution until it has a reason to stop it. But you flip the chart, you're seeing the exact same thing. So accumulation becomes an awareness of what distribution like, so you can start seeing it on the other side. A cycle of accumulation is the same thing as a cycle of distribution. This 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 setup we have on a distribution cycle is the same setup we have on an accumulation cycle, as you can see, as to where this accumulation cycle is back targeting these. Now we go and look at this, and let's just leave our levels where they were. Fine. This one was here. That's good. We can even take that off for now. And all you're doing is this is 1. This is 2 right here. So that's all you're doing now. So when I talk about the fractal nature of this, this is what you're doing now in order to attack this valley. So this is accumulation. This is what you're doing on, we've looked at this and talked about it for the past day about the fractal nature, but haven't really been able to break it down too much. Now we can break it down. Now all you are doing is creating a large accumulation zone right here, right? Which is actually a micro accumulation zone. Oops. Which is actually just a micro accumulation zone right here. But then that accumulation zone obviously frays out here, because then you're just going to be doing nothing but creating this whole cycle all over again on a larger time frame.
Hey everyone, how's it going? As you know, I'm now giving out some of this content for free that I was otherwise charging for the past little while. Drop a donation, subscribe to the channel, join Patreon. You'll get access to Discord. Great way. Lots of top level traders in there, people who are doing this for a career every single day. So go to Patreon, join a tier, get access to Discord. Go on Reddit, talk about future of trading, talk about the science of trading, talk about cotton candy, socials, everything you can. Let's help this thing grow. It's the way you guys can thank me for giving out this content for free that I was otherwise charging money for. So I'll leave a Bitcoin address on the screen. I'll leave the Patreon address on the screen. Just do something to help out. Okay, thanks guys. Take care.